As promised, I'm here to answer your questions about 49ers Cowboys. So let's have them start trickling in as soon as possible. We're 30 minutes away or so from kickoff of the Raiders and the Bengals. At that point, I will leave you all alone and you could go watch football to try to pass the time before the 49ers play tomorrow here in Texas. But I'm in Dallas. I've had some good food already, some biscuits for breakfast. I went to a place called Velvet Taco last night, which was really good. I had a chicken tikka masala taco. I had a Kobe beef burger taco, and I had a Texas brisket taco. So that place fed me well. I'd recommend it if you guys are here in Dallas or anywhere where I think Velvet Taco is a little bit of a chain. But 2 thumbs up for them. That was really good. I want some questions right now. Let's have a little 49ers Cowboys discussion. And then that may be it as far as video previews from studio settings go. I know the hotel room is not really a studio, but I do my best, try to make it work. And I'll give you guys a tour of Jerry's World tomorrow on YouTube. So subscribe right now. Ask the questions as quickly as you can, so that way I can actually get out to get my haircut, and then I'm going to go watch some Raiders Bengals. And obviously Bills Patriots is going to be later tonight. That's going to be exciting. It's more fun to watch playoff games, I think, after the team that you follow has been, through theirs, especially if they win, right? As I'm sure that 49ers fans on this chat can attest to that. I still remember 10 years ago yesterday, the 49ers beat the Saints at Candlestick Park in the Alex Smith game, Vernon Davis, the catch 3. And that was a Saturday game. So then the Sunday games were really fun to watch if you were a 49ers fan, because your team had already taken care of business. You could just sit back and chill. So imagine if the 49ers beat the Cowboys on Sunday afternoon. How fun would it be to watch the Rams and the Cardinals beat up on each other on Monday night as a 49ers fan? You could always dream, right? That's the goal for the 49ers tomorrow. But I'm sure some nerves are settling in for fans as they will watch the Raiders and the Bengals in those games earlier. All right, our first questions are in, so I'm going to go in and answer some of these. What do you think that Dan Quinn will focus his defensive efforts? Well, this is one of the interesting matchups in the game, because Dan Quinn obviously is a Seattle-style 4-3 cover 3 defensive guy. Now, there are exceptions. The cover 3 has gone out of vogue in the league, so Dan Quinn has also adjusted. He's playing a lot more man coverage this year. But the defense that he runs with the Dallas Cowboys is very related to the defense that the 49ers have installed initially under Robert Saleh, who worked under Dan Quinn with Seattle in 2013 and 2014. And it's very edge rusher focused. So I think Quinn is going to focus his efforts on beating that right tackle position for the 49ers in Tom Compton, who's not a great pass protector, but obviously has been a really good run blocker. Trent Williams will play at left tackle. That, I think, will help the 49ers neutralize that side. But watch Quinn try to use Micah Parsons against Tom Compton, and then also be careful of those A-gap blitzes from Micah Parsons. He's going to try to see if the 49ers have what it takes to stop confusion generated by that Dallas defense on those blitzes coming up the middle. And I would not be surprised to see the Cowboys try to attack the center and the right side of the 49ers offensive line. And run blitzes are going to be a big thing too. So the 49ers have to be balanced, because the Cowboys have so many takeaways. The Cowboys can create so much chaos up front. It all starts with what Dallas does at the line of scrimmage with those edge rushers. And that's where Dan Quinn is going to attack. We do know that his secondary is going to be opportunistic. They're going to try to prey on errant passes. They're going to try to prey on passes that are the victims of the Dallas pass rush, beating the 49ers offensive line. So it's all going to start up front. I think there's going to be some man coverage in this game that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to beat with his arm to help the 49ers put together that offensive mosaic that involves run and pass. But we do know that Dan Quinn's going to have an aggressive defense out there that's had success against the 49ers in the past. The last time they faced Dan Quinn was 2019, when he was still the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. And that was obviously a game that Atlanta won. So this is going to be a big test for the 49ers. That focus, though, is going to be up front on those edge positions, right at Tom Compton, and maybe even up the middle, because Micah Parsons does like to come through the A gap. This is from Kevin Jeter. Any relation to Derek? Hey, David, is it just me, or was Jimmy throwing with more zip in that Rams game than normal? maybe his throwing mechanics changed and increased his velocity. As someone who watches him in person, what are your thoughts? I think that Garoppolo doesn't get enough credit for his arm strength. He is able to throw it with zip, especially on those quick release passes into what the 49ers scheme actually is. And the scheme is to throw over the middle and, hit the guys on the crossers, set up yards after the catch. You hear John Lynch talk through the years about Garoppolo's arm talent. And, if you only watch YouTube videos of people who just love to pick on Jimmy Garoppolo all day, you would think he has none. You would think that this is a reprisal of Nick Mullins or somebody who's just a little bit better than Nick Mullins, which is the furthest from the truth. I mean, remember it was Kyle Shanahan who called Jimmy Garoppolo a human jugs machine back in 2017, implying that he throws the ball quickly and it comes out of his hand with some zip. I don't think that Jimmy Garoppolo is a power arm by any stretch of the imagination. And there are only a few power arms in the league. Matthew Stafford obviously is one of them. So he's not going to drive the ball 35 yards downfield on a rope, but he is able to make throws that seem to surprise people because they have a preconceived narrative of what his arm is. Now, in crunch time, Jimmy Garoppolo made some really, really impressive throws. The one to Deebo Samuel that turned into the big gain on the final drive was outside the numbers. It was a frozen rope, and you could see that it might have even surprised Jalen Ramsey with the velocity because he had a dive, and it was just outside his outstretched fingertips. So, I mean, there was something to the fact that Garoppolo threw the ball really well, especially with the thumb injury down the stretch against the Rams. I just wouldn't say that it's, anything particularly out of the ordinary. I do think we see him make some impressive throws frequently. There's just this biased narrative against Jimmy Garoppolo that somehow he's a noodle arm. He can't make those throws. That couldn't be further from the truth if you actually watch the tape and consider the fact that the 49ers schematically are trying to set their guys up for yards after the catch. They lead the league in yards after the catch per reception. The Cowboys, by the way, are number 31 defending that. It's going to be a big deal in this game. When you're trying to mask the fact that your offensive line is not good at pass protecting, and you're trying to accentuate the fact that Deebo Samuel is an awesome guy after the catch, that George Kittle is a monster after the catch, that Jawan Jennings can do great stuff after the catch, you're going to have shorter passes. And I think oftentimes Garoppolo's actual skill set causes confusion amongst people who are casually watching this because the 49ers ask him to do very specific things within their scheme. Can the 49ers pass rushers force Dak Prescott, not Dakota, into bad throws and mistakes? That's the big question in this game. The 49ers forced Matthew Stafford into bad throws and mistakes, and that was supposedly the best offensive line in football, pass protecting last week. So I think the answer there is yes. Mike McCarthy did say that Pollard is as close to 100% as he's ever been. There was another question about Pollard a little bit higher up. So 49ers are the number one run defense in football since week 6. Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott are the challenge to the Cowboys, who didn't run the ball too great and a recent loss to Arizona. I think the 49ers, given their run defense pedigree, could stop them and pin their ears back. And to answer the question, that's a key to get to this level, to force Dak Prescott into mistakes. How many rush versus pass attempts from the 49ers against the Cowboys, in my opinion? Well, it all depends on the defense the Cowboys come out with. I don't know if they're going to be stacking the box. I don't know if they're going to be playing softer. But last week, the 49ers passed the ball 33 times, 32 with Jimmy Garoppolo, 1 with Deebo Samuel, and ran it 31 times. Balance usually wins the day for the 49ers. Oh, man, I almost sneezed there. Didn't want to sneeze right on the YouTube live. Honest score prediction, 49ers 27, Cowboys 24. That's my honest score prediction. I feel like Greenlaw going to win this one for the 49ers. What are my thoughts? Tell you what, Dre Greenlaw's been hitting. Fred Warner has been flying around. If Azeez Al-Shire, who's questionable, plays, he'll be ready to hit too. Greenlaw needs to avoid the penalties, but God, he was like Mike Tyson. And that's how Kyle Shanahan drew the comparison that game against the Rams. It could give you goosebumps to watch those 49ers linebackers flying around and laying the wood these days. So I do think Greenlaw is going to be big in this game just because Dallas, when they're operating their balanced offense too, right? Ezekiel Elliott, Pollard, those guys can run. Obviously, you got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, Dak Prescott tying it all together. That makes a physical, fast linebacking crew that's good in coverage really, really important. And that will put the spotlight on Dre Greenlaw, who Big play Dre. He's come through in big moments before. Maybe fans are getting some of those vibes heading into this game. Will Trey Sermon get some run in this game? Only if the 49ers need to go deeper into their backfield. I think clearly they favor Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel as their primary running backs. Jermichael Hasty as the third down back is a better receiver than Sermon. So the 49ers need to go deep into their backfield for injury purposes. Yeah, you go to Sermon, use him for special teams, but I don't see him getting all too much run unless the 49ers really have to. Who do you think will get more receptions, Kittle, Deebo, or Ayuk? That's tough. It just depends on how the Cowboys play this defensively. Normally teams try to take somebody away, right? So if they try to take Kittle away, which has happened a lot, it opens it up for Deebo and Ayuk. If they try to take Deebo away, which is hard because you don't know if he's going to line up as a running back or receiver, it does open it up for Ayuk. At the end of the day, balance is really important. The reason the 49ers struggled in weeks 1 through 7 offensively is because Ayuk hadn't shown up yet. And because Ayuk hadn't shown up yet, the 49ers were terribly imbalanced because Kittle was hurt and Samuel was getting 80% of the targets. That just won't cut it. You have to have that distribution there so you could punish opposing defenses for focusing on a certain guy. Is Azeez full go? No, Azeez is currently questionable. Waiting for some more questions right here. We all know about Diggs. How about the rest of the Cowboys secondary? This is a really, really good question. Because I do think the 49ers need to attack Diggs. You can't play afraid because if you play afraid, what's going to happen is you lose half the field. That was the Richard Sherman effect with the Seattle Seahawks and with the 49ers in 2019. Their defense and their secondary didn't have to cover as much ground. But what's the case with the Dallas Cowboys? We have Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis are the other cornerbacks. And I think those two guys are exposable. This Dallas defense has given up the 23rd most. They rank number 23. So they rank number 23 as far as giving up explosive pass plays. And on tape, I think you could get after Brown. I think you could get after Lewis on the other side. The safeties for this team are Jaron Kearse and DeMonte Kazee. And it's a situation with Dallas where the secondary they're ball hawks. Diggs sets the tone. Diggs is the best guy back there, but even the tone setter has given up big plays, over 1,000 receiving yards this season. And none of the guys that I listed right there are good tacklers. Dallas is sketchy tackling on the back end. I also think that Dallas might be sketchy on the linebacker level, especially without Keanu Neal, who's going to be out of this game, the only guy on their injury report already ruled out. And I think they might be sketchy in coverage. I don't think Leighton Vander Esch is great in coverage. Micah Parsons, yeah, you could put him all over the field, but he's primarily a pass rusher. You want to run at Micah Parsons more than anything. But what will Vander Esch do as far as matching up with Kyle Juszczyk, as far as matching up with, Jeff Wilson or Jermichael Hasty coming out of the backfield, or even occasionally the 49ers tight end? That's a big deal to me. What's going to happen in those situations when the 49ers can try to expose the Dallas linebackers in coverage? So don't just consider this a secondary thing for the Dallas Cowboys. Consider this a whole pass coverage thing. And I think that there are spots for the 49ers to expose if they can handle Dallas's pass rush, which is ferocious. Ryan Bose has a great question, and he put in a tip, so we'll answer his first. Thank you, by the way, but I think the 49ers should have Deebo return kicks. Thoughts? If it becomes a huge issue and the 49ers get desperate, yes, they'll do it. They put Deebo Samuel back there against the Rams. But he's also expected to have a big workload in tomorrow's game, playing wide receiver, and running back. That's what Deebo calls it. So you don't want to wear him out. You don't want to expose him unnecessarily with that big of a role. So it's a balance that the 49ers have to play. But I do think that is a quality thought. With Pollard, I don't think Pollard is out. Pollard is in. So Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard are the two guys that I would expect in this game. Which wide receiver will be against Diggs and Parsons, since both are aiming to limit Deebo Samuel? We'll see how the Cowboys line it up. We'll see how the 49ers line it up in this game. I don't think any receivers are going to be operating against Parsons. If they are, the 49ers are going to score 50 plus on the Cowboys. But Parsons will cover. Parsons will drop in zones. Parsons, might see a tight end or a running back. Mainly worry about Parsons as a pass rusher with those 13 sacks. Debo might not be the best wide receiver on this 49ers team to beat man coverage. I think that's Brandon Ayuk. I think the man beater is Brandon Ayuk. Debo's the most versatile weapon, but he's not just this pure man coverage beater at wide receiver. So I wouldn't necessarily think it's Diggs against Debo. I think you might see Diggs against Brandon Ayuk as well. And it's going to be imperative that Jimmy Garoppolo picks the right leverage, the right matchup, and throws accurately, even with the hurt thumb, which we haven't been talking about nearly as much this week. 2019, Kyle was in his bag and now feels like he was holding back. Do you think he's saving it for the playoffs? Do we have a punter? Well, Mitch Wishnowsky should come off the concussion protocol today. I'm waiting news on that actually any minute now. And as soon as news comes through, I'll post it on Twitter. So make sure you follow me there. I think the 49ers offense is better than it was in 2019. Efficiency is better. The defense hasn't been as good, yet the 49ers have still been able to make it to the playoffs. And I think that's been because the offense has been a little bit more balanced. In general, the pass protection has been better, although losing both tackles against the Rams was not ideal. I generally just don't agree with the premise of the question. I think that Shanahan has been just as creative. We saw the trick play this other game, Deebo Samuel throwing to Jawan Jennings after those 10 runs, and that tied the game. So I think that objectively speaking, we zoom out, we look to see where the 49ers offense is, and it's better than it was in 2019. It's the best offense of the Kyle Shanahan era. And I already answered the question about the punter. Do you think the 94 49ers defense that defeated Dallas in the NFC Championship game is the best defensive team in franchise history? Well, funny enough, the DVOA of the next team, the 95 49ers, was actually better than the 94 49ers, even though they didn't have Deion Sanders. Guess who was the defensive coordinator for the 49ers in 1995? Pete Carroll. Yeah, I know, crazy. It's unfortunate that they lost to the Packers and they were upset in the divisional round. Because if they had Ricky Waters, if they had a better run game in 95, which is, the main deficiency of that team, I think the 49ers would have won the Super Bowl. They completely snuffed out Dallas in the regular season that year at Texas Stadium. And, right now we'd be talking about the back-to-back Super Bowl champion 49ers in 94, 95 and talking about how good that 95 defense was, because those guys were ferocious. So I'm not so sure that 94 defense was the best the 49ers had. 95 might have been better, but they didn't win that Super Bowl. Hey, if 19 holds on, and we have a conversation about 2019, but they didn't. So you could say if all day, but you just never really know. I think you guys lost me there for a little bit. Sorry. That was actually my fault. I actually ended the broadcast really quickly. I want to make sure my audio is still working. It is. Good stuff. Thank you for this one. Cone said the 49ers put Debo as a kick returner to get touchbacks. You don't a touchback might be a positive outcome. You don't want to screw up kick returns. That's true. But if the opposition doesn't kick it straight to, if the opposition doesn't kick a touchback, Debo's back there, they're going to have to deal with them. And there's always a risk that the kicker doesn't get it enough. So you put your best guy back there to the point that you're not risking his health or his freshness for his big load on offense. Yes, Pete Carroll was the 49ers defensive coordinator in 1995. Any predictions on score, pass, or run yards for both teams? Well, you guys know me. I don't like raw yardage numbers, pass or run yards. That's tough. So I don't know if I have a prediction there, but I have a prediction on the score, 27-24 49ers. Can the 49ers corners hold up against the Cowboys wide receivers? That's the big question. Ambry Thomas, Emmanuel Moseley. I will say that on the deepest pass attempt, 2 pass attempts from Matthew Stafford last week, the 49ers held up. His 2 deepest pass attempts for the Rams against Niners were both interceptions, Emmanuel Moseley and then Ambry Thomas. So that's a big arrow up for the 49ers. Can it continue? We'll see. But I think it's going to have to continue at least to a degree for the 49ers to win this game. Now, rush and coverage are connected, and the 49ers are rooted in that defensive line and their pass rush. So that's huge. They have to win up front, and I think they can based on how this defensive line is trending. By the way, subscribe and watch my Nick Bosa video. I just put that up about 30 minutes ago. But the back end has to do its job too. They're connected. This is a symbiotic relationship. And I think that Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Moseley are getting better, but this is a bigger challenge probably than last week because he had Cooper Kupp, but a lot of his work came in the slot. You're going to have Cooper and CeeDee Lamb working on the outside. So this is going to be a huge game for those 49ers cornerbacks. Do I think the 49ers will blitz more against Dak? Maybe. He hasn't been as good since, that calf strain. There's been some shakiness from Dak Prescott. So I do think that the 49ers are in a position where they can, get after him. He hasn't run as much. I think he's run a little bit more lately. But there were some really, really good and well-timed blitzes from DeMeco Ryans that changed the course of that game in the second half. So we'll see what happens with the 49ers moving forward. But I think DeMeco is so smart and he's so good with the chess match. He's grown over the course of this year. So I think that he knows when the blitz, that, the one that he called with Dre Greenlaw in the third quarter that really helped reverse the flow of that game. Because remember, Stafford started 15-16. So 49ers had to find a way to start hitting him and manufacturing pressure. When that happened, the 49ers got into a position where they're playing that game downhill. And I think that you have a limited amount of blitz bullet per game. If you pick them at the right time and if you use them correctly. So on the Dre Greenlaw blitz, the 49ers and Ryans also brought Jimmy Ward, and he went to the outside shoulder of, I think it was the left guard on the play, if I remember correctly. And because Ward went at the left guard's outside shoulder, that forced the left guard to take about a step to the left. And the 49ers pressure with with one of their defensive tackles against the center position opened up just enough of a hole for Dre Greenlaw to shoot right through, hit Stafford, and really maybe change the course of that game because they started hitting Stafford a lot more and he became inaccurate. So it's if you use the blitz too often, especially against a smart quarterback like Dak, he's going to start burning you going downfield, right? But if you use that finite amount of bullets at just the right time, you can change the course of the game because a few of them will work. So it just depends on when and where DeMeco Ryans sees his opportunity. Yes. Am I going to give you a shot of Cowboy Stadium? Obviously. Subscribe right now. Make sure you have the notifications on, and I'm going to give you guys a pregame tour tomorrow of Cowboy Stadium. 30-plus rushes or 20 first downs, which is more important? These are awfully specific questions, guys. I don't know what the game flow is going to be. If the 49ers run over 30 times, that probably means the game is flowing well. If they get over 20 first downs, that probably means the game is flowing well. These are more symptoms of what's happening in the game than game planning things, right? You don't go into the game and say, we're going to make sure that we have 30 or 40 runs. No, you go into the game saying, I hope that we're balanced as the 49ers, and I hope that we end up with more than 30 or maybe even more than 40 runs. But you can't just run against the brick wall all game because that won't work. The goal is to open up enough balance, enough holes to get to that 30, 40 rush mark or the 20 first down mark. The goal is to be that efficient, but it's not like the plan at the start of the game. It's more of a goal than a plan. Do you think Trent Williams will play with a chip on his shoulder after missing the last game? Absolutely. Trent Williams was very disappointed to not be able to play against the Rams. So I think that he's savoring this. I mean, he even said, we're going to play in the Mecca of football, Texas. And Trent Williams knows what this means. He is from Texas, by the way. He has only played in 2 playoff games in his career, both losses for Washington. He's going to want to notch a playoff victory to his resume. So I think Trent Williams is going to play some big-time football for the 49ers tomorrow. This is going to mean a lot to him. You know, he doesn't need motivation, but he really, really will take that extra chip on his shoulder. I think that's a great question. Is Arik Armstead going to be on the edge since Maurice Hurst is back? We'll see if the 49ers activate 10 defensive linemen. No guarantee. They may not want to mess with the rotation of 9 they have going now. But if they do activate Maurice Hurst, he'll have another, they'll have more flexibility for Arik Armstead. But I think they love the work that Arik is doing. I don't think you want to mess too much with that. Hurst would just be more depth for the 49ers, especially since he hasn't played in the game in so long. You can't just expect him to take a new role and have a huge snap count. I think he'd be more of a rotational piece. I do think that Dallas does struggle a little bit against motion offenses. I don't have the exact EPA breakdown, but I do think that is I think it's a valid point. I don't think this Dallas defense is a world beater. I think they rank really high in EPA and DVOA because other teams are turning the ball over against them. But I think the 49ers might be built to take advantage of this Dallas defense. So the 49ers, this is the thing. This is the thing for this football team. They have to attack Dallas where Dallas is weak. They can't. Obviously, they have to attack Dallas everywhere, but they have to capitalize, especially at the areas where they're weak. Because you can't let Dallas dictate how you're going to play this game as the 49ers. But if you're going to dictate this as Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo, you're going to beat the Cowboys up the middle. Neville Gallimore, Carlos Watkins are 2 below average defensive tackles. Micah Parsons is below average against the run. I don't think Randy Gregory is great against the run. I don't think the cornerbacks and the safeties for Dallas are good tacklers. They're ball hawks. They're pass rushers. They can do all that off the edge. But you beat Dallas with the inside zone. You beat them in those phases of the game. Then you could turn around and you could couple that with attacking Trevon Diggs because the pass rush isn't good enough. If you diffuse the pass rush for Diggs to be able to prey on the ball and get all those picks. That is how you take care of this game. All right, guys, it was a fun Q&A. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks for all your questions. Take care.